I have to wear my coat. I'm cold.
Hey. I was going to wear it, and then a moment ago I said, hey, I kind of Welcome, everybody. Today is a very important day because we are introducing the Women's Health Protection Act. And as our first speaker, we have the very, very incredible leader, Hakeem Jeffries.
Thank you, Representative Chu, for your continued leadership on this critically important issue. I thank all of the members who are here, all of the activists and the citizen Americans who are fighting on this critically important issue. House Democrats believe in a woman's freedom to make her own reproductive health care decisions, period, full stop. And we will not rest until the Women's Health Protection Act is the law of the land. That is why we are introducing it today with more than 200 members of the House Democratic Caucus as full sponsors. And it will continue to be one of our top priorities as we move forward. There is a clear distinction between our view, our values, our emphasis, which will be on protecting a woman's freedom to make her own reproductive health care decisions, and the extreme MAGA Republicans who have a very different view about freedom. The Women's Health Protection Act is so critical because the extreme MAGA Republicans want to impose a nationwide abortion ban. We're going to stop them. The extreme MAGA Republicans want to criminalize abortion care across the nation. We're going to stop them. And the extreme MAGA Republicans think that they should be the ones who make a decision about abortion care. And we're here to say, back up off the women of America. It's their decision, not your decision. And so we will stand up, we will show up, we will speak up until the Women's Health Protection Act is the law of the land. Thank you very much.
Thank you for those incredible words and your strong leadership in making sure that Roe versus Wade is the law of the land. Yes, I'm Congressmember Judy Chu from California, and I stand before you today to reintroduce for the 7th time the Women's Health Protection Act, because we cannot have true equality in this country until we have reproductive freedom for all. Last summer, in an instant, an extremist Supreme Court ripped away the bodily autonomy of half the American population. I've never seen such terror from my constituents or such anger and outrage. Almost immediately, we heard the story of a 10-year-old who would have been forced to carry her rapist's baby if she had not crossed state lines to obtain an abortion. We heard about parents banging on clinic doors, terrified that their decisions had just been taken away from them. And in the months since, it's only gotten worse. Women have been denied arthritis medication at the pharmacy counter because it could cause an abortion. 12 U.S. states have either near or total bans on abortion care. A woman in Texas nearly bled to death because a medically recommended treatment for her ongoing miscarriage and abortion was no longer legal. And if Republicans had their way, this would be forever a nation of forced birth. They've already proposed a national abortion ban, so no matter where you live, politicians would have more say about what happens to your body than you do. That's why we're here today, to fight back and introduce the Women's Health Protection Act, or WIPA. Our bill would create a federal right to abortion care free from these state-level abortion bans that chip away at reproductive freedom. This Congress, WIPA, is H.R. 12, which means that it's one of the House Democrats' top 10 priorities in this Congress. And guess what? Yes, how about that? And already we have 208 original co-sponsors. How about that? So I want to thank House Democratic Leader Jeffries, Whip Clark, and Chair Aguilar for your steadfast support of abortion rights. And I want to thank my incredible co-leads, Representatives Frankel, Pressley, and Escobar, for your continued leadership on reproductive freedom in this country. Let me be clear, we are all standing here today because every person, no matter their circumstances, no matter how they became pregnant, deserves dignity, safety, and care in seeking an abortion. Because you should not have more rights if you're pregnant in California than if you get pregnant in Texas. And most of all, because no one, not the president, not a Supreme Court justice, not your partner, should be able to force you to remain pregnant if you do not wish to. Our message today is loud and clear. We will keep fighting until we achieve full reproductive justice in America.
All right, Judy.
And now I would like to turn it over to our most incredible whip who's been such a steadfast supporter on this issue, Katherine Clark.
Oh my goodness, thank you, Judy Chu. Judy is leading the charge with this vital, life-saving, freedom-defending WIPA legislation, and we are so grateful for you. House Democrats are not going to stand for women in this country being made second-class citizens. But tragically, because of extreme MAGA Republicans, that is the reality facing women across this country. I recently traveled to Texas and was with my good friend, Greg Casares. We heard from advocates, from providers, from navigators about what they are experiencing. And I learned the story of a Dallas woman who lost her limbs due to sepsis because she was denied help during a miscarriage. Think about that. Where the victims of rape and incest are being forced into parenthood, House Republicans have deserted one of America's most basic values, freedom. Democrats understand that controlling one's body is a fundamental freedom. Republicans think our bodies should be subject to the rule of politicians. Democrats understand that abortion is health care. Republican thinks health care warrants a prison sentence and even proposing death penalty. That's the MAGA vision of a dystopia where the powerful and the privileged have total control. With the Women's Health Protection Act, Democrats are fighting for a future where abortion access is the law of the land. A future where healthcare decisions are in the hands of women and doctors and nobody else. We stand with the American people, and nothing will stop us from putting the health and freedom of women over politics. I am grateful to be in this fight with my colleagues and especially with our next speaker, a proud voice for reproductive justice and our chair of our caucus, Pete Aguilar.
Thank you, Whip Clark, for leading this effort, and to Leader Jeffries for his steadfast support. I'm so proud of my colleagues, Representatives Chu and Frankel, Pressley, Escobar, and DeGette, and stand with millions of Americans who believe and who have always believed in reproductive freedom. I say always believed because we know that our country has not changed. It's the right-wing extremists and their allies in Congress and on the Supreme Court who took this country a half-century backwards and stripped away fundamental rights that have been on the books for 50 years. We're talking about far-right justices with no medical expertise, telling women they cannot get the care they need, telling doctors they can't treat their patients. They've rolled back freedom to control the health of one's own body and undermined and opened doors for criminalizing doctors for just doing their jobs. And as has been mentioned before, we are seeing the devastating consequences across this country. But today, we're fighting back against these attacks and standing up for a woman's right to have an abortion. We will not stop until the Women's Health Protection Act gets to the President's desk and becomes law. Thank you so much. I want to now yield to the chair of the Women's House Caucus, Lois Frankel.
All right. Thank you. All right. Good morning. Thank you, Chair Aguilar, and to our leaders, Jeffries and Whip Clark. And it's an honor to be alongside all my colleagues here. Thank you. I'm giving you a hand. As we reintroduce the Women's Health Protection Act, and my, never has this been more important to get over the finish line. Since the United States Supreme Court decimated Roe v. Wade, Republicans are attacking reproductive rights at every angle at a high-paced speed. In my home state of Florida, Republicans are pushing a 6-week abortion ban before most women even know they're pregnant. In Idaho, the Republican legislature is moving ahead to restrict travel between states to get abortion care. I mean, come on, that's obviously and blatantly unconstitutional and downright scary. And that's not even the worst. In South Carolina, Republican lawmakers are considering a bill that would allow the death penalty for women who get abortions. So this is really horrifying stuff, and that's what Republicans are fighting for. So I'm very proud to lead the Democratic Women's Caucus. We're 94 members strong. All right, thanks. But we love our male supporters too. Thank you, dads. And we're fighting back, all of us, to pass the Women's Health Protection Act, legislation that creates a new legal protection for the right to provide access to abortion care free from medically unnecessary restrictions and bans. And look at us here. We are, my colleagues and I, we are mothers and fathers and grandparents. We know both the blessings of a child and we know the responsibility of raising a child. And that's why it should be up to women, not politicians, not judges, not companies like Walgreens, to make the very personal decisions of when or whether to start or continue to grow a family. Because we trust women to have the freedom to control our own bodies. And let's make it clear that the right to access abortion care is not only essential for reproductive autonomy, it's essential for social and economic equality and the ability for women to guide their own future. And with that, I thank you all for being here, and I bring up Congressman Pressley, one of the co-sponsors of this legislation and the policy co-chair of the Democratic Women's Caucus.
Good afternoon. Thank you to my colleagues for your meaningful partnership and urgency. Abortion care is a fundamental human right and routine medical care. I stand in solidarity with the 1 in 4 women across this country. 1 in 4 women who you work with in your family, who you love, women who you worship with. 1 in 4 women across this country who've had an abortion, and everyone who will ever seek abortion care. There is no shame in seeking abortion care. There is no shame in having had an abortion. The only shame is that there are unrelenting, coordinated forces at work to deny you access to that which is a fundamental human right, and that is health care. Trying to deny the mother working double shifts who just cannot manage the physical demands of another pregnancy. the student who decided to finish their degree and begin their family on their own terms, the parents who received the heart-wrenching news that they have miscarried and will need abortion care immediately. I see you, I love you, and I stand with you. And while my heart is heavy, my spirit is resolved, emboldened, and determined, as is this movement. You see, reproductive justice organizers, Black, brown, indigenous, disabled, and LGBTQ plus folks have been sounding the alarms. We have been the canary in the coal mines. We were accused of being hysterical. We've raised our voices, put our bodies on the line as anti-choice lawmakers wage a full-fledged assault on our reproductive freedom. For too long, the right to control our own bodies has been up for debate in the halls of power. And last year, when the Supreme Court ruled against a human right and the will of the people, we were disappointed, but certainly not surprised. The court claims that our human rights are invalidated by their opinions of what is and what isn't rooted in our nation's histories and traditions. Well, let me be clear. This nation's history and traditions denied my very personhood. By the way, past the ERA. This nation's history and traditions bought and sold my ancestors. This nation's history and traditions exploited the bodies of people who look like me. Our full humanity and our bodily autonomy and our collective liberation are under attack, and our legislation must meet the moment. This bill, the Women's Health Protection Act, is essential. Twice now, the People's House passed this bill last Congress. Twice we stood up to affirm and codify the fundamental human right to abortion care. And by we, I mean Democrats. And the situation has only grown more dire. Expectant mothers denied necessary medical care during a pregnancy loss. 11-year-olds told by the state to bear a child. An abomination. And with a Black maternal morbidity crisis, with Black women 4 times more likely to die in childbirth or in post-birthing complications, looking at the prospect of forced birth, this is a matter of life and death. And doctors and families are threatened as they seek to criminalize both patients and providers. Enough. We are sick of empty rhetoric, medically inaccurate information, and hypocrisy from across the aisle. Abortion bans are rooted in white supremacy, and overturning Roe has entrenched medical apartheid in this country, putting safe, necessary abortion out of reach for millions, especially our lowest income, LGBTQ siblings, people with disabilities, Black, brown, AAPI, and indigenous folks. So Congress must act. And to my Senate colleagues on the other side of the Capitol building, we thank you for your partnership on this bill, and we demand that you act. Abolish the Jim Crow filibuster, pass the Women's Health Protection Act, enshrine the fundamental human right to abortion care in federal law once and for all, period, full stop. Are you next? Okay. Let me see which one of my leaders is next. Okay, excellent. And another one of our incredible co-leads. And I do just want to take a moment. Can we just all thank Congresswoman Judy Chu? Talk about being a canary in the coal mine, just reintroducing this every Congress since 2013. Okay. All right, so next we're going to bring up another co-lead, my classmate, the indefatigable Congresswoman Veronica Escobar.
Buenas tardes. It is so wonderful to be here with these great advocates for women's reproductive rights. I want to thank my incredible colleagues, of course, led by Judy Chu, all of the colleagues who've come together to say they support women's reproductive rights. And I want to thank all the courageous women and men across the country who have been fighting day in and day out to ensure that women have the right to control their reproductive future and their own bodies. Make no mistake about it, my friends, we are seeing the dark reality and the dark vision that Republicans have for our country, and women are at the center of that dark vision. While my colleagues on the other side of the aisle like to call themselves pro-life, there is absolutely nothing pro-life about their political agenda. There is absolutely nothing pro-life about the values they espouse or the policies that they push. Let me remind you, these are the same people, these people who call themselves pro-life are the same people who are more than happy to have guns in our classrooms, the same people who vote against access to high-quality childcare, the same Republicans who vote against the expanded child tax credit, the same Republicans who vote against universal pre-K. There is nothing pro-life about their agenda. This is all about control. This is all about ensuring that women remain second-class citizens in a country where we should have achieved equality long ago. And it starts with controlling our bodies and our ability to access our own health care. And unfortunately, the extremist Republican agenda is now being carried out by a highly political majority on the Supreme Court that has become Mitch McConnell's plaything. And so in our country right now, the battle could not be clearer. And I am so proud to stand with these battle buddies who say that we are not going to quit until we pass the Women's Healthcare Protection Act and every woman has achieved equality and is able to reach her full potential in this country. And so thank you all very much. I am so excited to be the person who gets to introduce another great champion, an incredible leader for women's reproductive rights, the co-chair of the Women's Pro-Choice Caucus, Ayanna DeGette.
Thank you so much, Veronica. Thank you for your leadership, all the wonderful leadership we have of our female and male colleagues here today. Thanks for coming. And thanks, and I'm appearing on behalf of that great warrior, Barbara Lee, my co-chair of the Pro-Choice Caucus, who can't be here with us today. But we have been fighting for a woman's rights for years. And Judy Chu has been fighting for a woman's rights for years. And there's someone else who just got here for whom we wouldn't have had these advances over these last number of years. Speaker Emeritus Nancy Pelosi is here. Thank you, Nancy. Someday Nancy and I are going to write a memoir of all the pro-choice battles that we fought side by side. And you know, as so many of the speakers said, last year, for the first time in our history, we lost a freedom that we had had for 50 years. And the people of America know this. The people of America know that their rights have been put in jeopardy. Across the country, we've seen the terrible results of the Dobbs decision. We've seen, as you heard, we've seen 11-year-old girls having to take across state lines to get the medical services they need. We've seen women in Texas who are having a miscarriage, who have been told to go into sepsis before they can get the medical services they need. But we also see every day people who are making their reproductive choices having to make extraordinary efforts to go to other states and to get those services that they need. This has to end. We have to pass the Women's Health Protection Act. We tried in the last Congress. The House passed it not once, but twice. And then they didn't take it over on the other side. But yet the atrocities continue to mount. And our Republican colleagues on the House side, they came in with a really bold agenda which they said they were going to take away even more of our rights. But I think some of them heard from their constituents, because since the second week of the session, they haven't put these bills up. But we know where their intent lies. Their intent is to further weaken people's rights, but for sure, their intent is not to restore the rights that we need. And so we have a simple message today. We're reintroducing the Women's Health Protection Act. We have over 200 original co-sponsors of this bill. We will use every opportunity and tool at our disposal to make sure that we find a way to pass this bill, even though the leadership of the House is against it. We will fight every day, in every way, to make sure this is the law of the land. And then when we pass it through the House, we'll go over and have a little chat with our colleagues in the Senate, and we'll let them know what their constituents think too, because this will happen. And it was my dear friend and my wonderful colleague, John Lewis, who said this to us all the time. Nancy, you remember it well. We would get disheartened. We would get discouraged. And John Lewis would say to us, never give up and never give in. Folks, we're never going to give up. We're never going to give in till we restore every right. Thank you. I'm now so pleased to introduce my colleague in this effort and a true fighter, Nancy Northrop, who's the president of the Center for Reproductive Rights. Nancy?
Good afternoon. I'm Nancy Northrop, President and CEO of the Center for Reproductive Rights. We are lawyers and human rights advocates who work to ensure that reproductive rights are protected in law as fundamental human rights by governments around the world. And all of the reproductive health care that people need, from maternity care, contraception, fertility care, and abortion care, are rooted in fundamental rights, fundamental international human rights: the right to life, the right to health, the right to bodily autonomy and equality, and the right to be free from discrimination on the basis of gender, race, disability, and more. Last year in June, the Supreme Court, in the Dobbs decision, took away the right to abortion from people across the nation. They did so in a decision that took away for the very first time a right to personal liberty. Never before had the Supreme Court done that. And now, because of that, you've heard about the harms that people are suffering across the nation. People are needing to travel out of state if they have the means. Women in obstetric emergencies are being denied essential life-saving care. Doctors are facing the real choice between prison sentences as long as 99 years in the state of Texas, facing criminal prosecution versus the health and well-being of their patients. And this is falling hardest on communities that have always had systemic barriers to access to health care, to communities of color, low-income communities, people struggling to make ends meet, people living in rural areas. So those that do not have the means to leave their states are being forced to carry their pregnancies to term. And meanwhile, others who are facing emergencies in their states are having to risk their very lives because of the denial of abortion care. Congress has the power to stop this. Congress has the power to do that and must with the Women's Health Protection Act. I am so pleased to be standing here today with the members of Congress, and a particular shout out to Representative Judy Chu, who has been leading this battle. I applaud all of the co-sponsors for standing tall and prioritizing access to abortion care. I applaud the members of Congress in the House for introducing the Women's Health Protection Act with important findings that make clear about both the history and current reality of the racial and gender discrimination behind bans on access to abortion care. Make no mistake, we have to remember right now, as the U.S. is moving backwards, the rest of the world is moving forward. The U.S. is one of only 4 countries that have restricted access to abortion care. The others are El Salvador, Poland, and Nicaragua. Meanwhile, in the last 30 years, 60 countries have moved forward. Make no mistake, we will join them. We will not stop advocating until the Women's Health Protection Act is law. We will fight hard year, month, day in and day out. And trust me, it will happen. Thank you again.
And to round us out, we have Kimberly Inez McGuire, Executive Director of Unite for Reproductive and Gender Equity, or URGE.
Thank you so much to the incredible leaders who have come here to speak today. And in particular, I have to show so much love to the women of color in this House of Representatives who are leading with morals and ethics and such clarity. It inspires me, and I know it inspires my daughter. I am here today because extremists who want to make abortion a crime, who want to criminalize abortion seekers and those who help, have launched a full-scale attack on our health, our lives, and our communities. They have passed state-level abortion bans in more than a dozen states, leaving nearly half of this country with no legal access to abortion care. They have passed abortion coverage bans like the Hyde Amendment that remove this important care from access for low-income people. And now they are trying to take away our access to safe and effective abortion pills. It is unacceptable. But we know better. We know that abortion bans are deeply unpopular with the American people, as the good people of Kentucky and Michigan and Kansas and elsewhere have reminded us again and again. Red states do not support abortion bans. We know that abortion bans are racist and enact vicious violence on the bodies of Black and brown and immigrant people. And we know something else. We know that abortion bans will be defeated by a mass movement for reproductive justice. That is why we at URGE, Unite for Reproductive and Gender Equity, we are mobilizing, we are organizing people across this country, young folks, people of color, queer and trans folks. We will pass the Women's Health Protection Act. We will keep fighting until every person who needs abortion can get the care they need, and we will win. Thank you.
Well, I have to give a super shout out to someone who did such justice to the Women's Health Protection Act. Right after the Texas law, the bounty hunter law, passed, Speaker Emeritus Pelosi put the Women's Health Protection Act on the floor for a vote, and as a result, it became the most supported pro-abortion bill in the history of Congress. How about that? Speaker Pelosi. And I really want to thank all our supporters who came out today. We had quite a few members who did, and Congress members Greg Casar, Robert Menendez, Pat Ryan, Kevin Mullen, Joyce Beatty, Chantal Brown, Ruben Gallego, Jasmine Crockett, Josh Gottheimer, Rashida Tlaib, Steve Horsford, and Sheila Jackson-Lee. Let's give them all a round of applause. Thank you. Well, we have time for a couple of questions, if there are any.
This is likely not to go anywhere, given that the Republican-controlled House. When do you hope to get this moving forward?
Well, we feel very confident that in 2 years we will be in a position to put it on the floor once again. And we are determined also, of course, to keep our majority in the Senate. So I think that the future is bright, and in 2 years we can get this passed.
We're looking at other options between now and then, too.
Yeah, and I would just add, I mean, look, they're coming at us at every, using every tool available to them to put bans on bodies, to deny access to this critical life-saving health care. And so we're doing the same, whether it's litigation, whether it's legislation or mobilization. And we don't stop organizing because we don't have the gavel and we're not in cycle. And we don't stop legislating because we don't have the gavel and we're not in cycle. The other side isn't stopping, and neither are we.
Well, with that then, thank you all for coming, and let's get the Women's Health Protection Act passed.